This is an SM Media production. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rangers Assessment right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike. It's a pleasure to be your host as always, and we are in for a podcast that will feel quite good for the two guests that we have on tonight. First of all, it's a pleasure to welcome on as always Scott McKay.
How you doing, Scott? Thanks for having me on again, mate.
Always a pleasure, mate. I think this one will probably feel a bit better than some other ones we've done this season. I think there's been a culmination, and it's a pleasure to welcome on for the first time onto the channel. It's a pleasure to welcome Andrew Stewart.
Cheers, Scott. Thanks for having me on. I'm kind of a good talk tonight. This will be very, very enjoyable. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Scott, we have spoke about this a lot. Where I've said it for as long as I can remember. For Rangers, it is about winning the weekend. It's about if Celtic are to slip up, or if Celtic win 1-0, for example, Rangers win 2-0, and they've got the bragging rights that weekend. This probably feels the most pivotal weekend that Rangers have had as long as probably I can remember it. I'm not even counting the 55 season because Rangers were just so impressive. But in terms of a kind of hard-fought title race and taking a chance that's been handed on a plate, today it wasn't the prettiest watch as we'll get into, but that today felt pivotal.
Aye, definitely. I seen your tweet earlier on you put up about the results. Was a couple the season under Gio where we drew one each away to Tannadice and Celtic scored the last minute win at Parkhead. It feels very similar to that. I've been on other pods that have said, "Oh, this is a turning point. This is a turning point," but this actually feels like a turning point, Scott, because we've been top of the league.
Yeah, Andrew, I think as well in terms of the kind of way Rangers have been basically since Clement's come in. Obviously, the one feather in his bow was obviously the result at Parkhead. But think of that though, Celtic beat Rangers at Parkhead, and it's not even the middle of February, and Rangers are above them in the league. They've been 7 points behind. The manager deserves so much credit, and I think the manager, in comparison to others that have been in this position in the past couple of years, he isn't affected by it. You saw his interview. I thought his interview was brilliant. The first question he was asked is, "You can go top of the league today. Are you bothered about it? Are you?" And he just basically said no. That was the only a one-word answer, no. And when you've got a manager like that who just keeps the players firmly on the ground, the players who have been we've criticised their mentality in years gone by. A lot of these players, they have a manager now who has them so motivated, so well drilled, and that's the sign of a title winning team.
100%. I mean, as you said, no disrespect to any of the managers that came before him, but there's something that's just a wee bit different with Philippe Clement. He just has he takes the pressure off the players. I think he's got the broad shoulders. He shoulders the kind of the pressure. Gets him the mainstream media and the press conferences, and he handles it so well. I think I know he's I think he's a great tactician, but his man management skills are superb as well. There's been a few times like I'm sitting in the stadium, let's go back to Limassol, and Cantwell gets hooked off, and you're thinking he's got a history of burning bridges with managers. That could be a pivotal moment in his Rangers career. But you flash forward to today, and you think, oh, that's another good performance by Todd Cantwell. He's really been a star in the last few weeks, and you then compare that his performance, his form now to early start of the season with Beale, and it was the shadow of a player. He's got that effect on a number of players. I mean, look at Dujon Sterling. I mean, he was a bench warmer until Clement came in, and the boy looks like a star to me. And I think these are the small things that maybe go unnoticed. That he has that influence on these players in the training ground, and he takes the pressure on them in the big occasions to bring on Sterling in centre mid, because I mean that was a bit of an out there decision at the time. Obviously, knowing what we know, he's comfortable and he looks like he can adapt to that position. But at the time, that's a pretty out there choice. But he's got the shoulders to, take that pressure on. Because if that goes wrong, he's going to have to answer for it.
Scott, in terms of the lineup, obviously against St Johnstone, there was a lot of rotation. I saw a lot of people talking about would there be a consistency in terms of the lineup for Wednesday night. Changed a lot of it. Brought back in Borna Barisic. Diamande obviously made his debut. Cortez came back into the lineup. Obviously Matondo been injured. Scott Wright was at right wing and Silva up front. So, and probably this has been down to injuries a lot more. But you can see that he's eager to, especially when it's going to be Thursday, Sunday for a long time between now and the end of the season. Considering how if Rangers do well in Europe, he's going to have to rotate that. And I thought today that was quite admirable in terms of that sticking with a consistent team is obviously the way Rangers have operated for so long, but he's able to change 4 or 5 today, and you understand it.
Aye, definitely. He's got a rotation doing a fine art, hasn't he? Really.
Yeah.
Probably the 3 new January signings today, they've all got important minutes. Scott Wright comes back in very cold, doesn't have a great game right enough. He's hooked up to the end of the first half, and we'll go into that. But overall, there's comparison, Scott, between the 55 squad. If you look at like the clean sheet record, we seem like a well-oiled machine that just keeps churning out result after result after result. And the thing I'm most impressed with about it is Diamande and Cortez have got no experience of British football, and they've come in and they look as if they've been playing for us for a few years. They look really, really settled compared to the comparison of like say your Cifuentes and Ramos and stuff coming in that never ever really settled. So that down to me is good man management again, like Andrew says, and the rotation in the lineup. I mean, you're seeing the benefit of like your Tom Lawrence. Mm-hmm. He's getting managed. He's been back twice previously, just flung in to play consecutive 90 minutes to body breaks down. He's getting managed. Ryan Jackson on his squads as much as what he used to be. There seems to be an element of common sense approach off a manager, and I think that's the easiest way to put it.
No, I think that's absolutely fair, and I think Andrew as well. Obviously, we didn't know the state of the surface beforehand, but I thought it was quite smart actually to bring those guys in early on and get them used to what in realistic terms was probably as poor a surface as I think Cortez especially. I kept thinking first half he's probably never played in a surface as bad as that, and probably that was the reason maybe he didn't have a good game. But I think it was good to get those guys in there and see what that's about. And it was something Clement said a few weeks ago against St Mirren where it wasn't meant to be pretty. It was just a team to go out and win that game. And that was another sign today that he was obviously wanting to kind of get some minutes into guys that will be important in the time to come. But he saw how big the game was and the different kind of style of the game. We know how St Johnstone are going to play under Craig Levein. It's not going to be pretty. You need to be at your best to really kind of slaughter a team who are going to be so defensive like that. But it was so important I think, to kind of get those guys minutes into that kind of style of game, because I don't think you'll get that very often in Scotland, because I think we've obviously got artificial surfaces and certainly a lot more clubs keep an eye on their surface better than St Johnstone do. So I think that was a good sign of management as well.
Definitely. I think it's a good moment for the manager to learn what his players can handle, and I think it's a good moment for the players themselves to, they're getting chucked into a big game. I mean, the expectations of the support, a lot of good travelling support as always, loud, against a team that, as you said, are going to defend the penalty box. And, as you mentioned Cortez there, he maybe didn't have the best game that he probably would have wanted, but that will be so good for him in terms of experience. He's going to learn these things, quickly. And it's, again, as we said, props to the manager for not kind of testing the water. He's chucking them straight in there and getting that kind of, straight into the first team in that environment. As you said, the pitch I thought was horrible. It's been the same. I mean, St Park was bad. Stephen Robinson said, "Oh, the pitch is horrible," and it's like, it's your pitch. Come on, you can't use that card when it's your pitch. But yeah, I mean, it's a really, it'll be memorable for them in the long run, because this is the first time they've dipped their toe into the nitty gritty stuff, the rough and tumble. No, I'm not saying that can you do it in a rainy night in Stoke, but can you do it in a couple of molehills and Cowpat probably? But yeah, I think they'll enjoy that experience in the long run.
Scott, I don't think the first half will be getting out of the way. I'll probably need to watch the game back and do a bit of analysis on it kind of down the line later this week. But in terms of a spectacle, the first half I didn't think was good at all. Surface played a part in that. I've been very vocal about Scott Wright probably since he came to Rangers that he's not that good. He's not Rangers level. And I think we need to really emphasise that anytime we talk about Scott Wright, because I checked this today, he's played 106 games for Rangers, which you would think that's the sign. If you get, I always get told when I was young, if a player's played over 100 games, then they've obviously been well thought of. He's at 106 chances for me, and I can think in one hand the amount he's taken, and that's a sign as well that there's nobody really there in front of him still, and he's just not doing it for me. And again, he should have been gone in the summer. They tried to get rid of him. Again, it was another farcical kind of situation that kind of Beale fumbled. But it gets the chance today. You're thinking, right, this is the sort, because that's the sort of game you would expect somebody like Scott Wright to maybe thrive, because he's probably played in those conditions all his life, and he just didn't. There was about 6 or 7 times where he had the ball and he just lost it. Just didn't have any sort of impetus to drive anything forward. And it's about time we kind of come to this conclusion that Scott Wright in 2024 shouldn't be playing for Rangers.
No, definitely not. He's been stealing a wage for a minute he signed that contract, to be brutally honest with you, Scott. I know he's, like you say, he's had the odd occasion where he's come up trumps, but the trouble is you can only count maybe 5 games of that, 106 games. He's not Rangers class for me. It tells you everything you need to know when there's young Ross McCausland that's playing more games on him. And I think Scott Wright's getting a game because we have to play Scott Wright. There's nobody else at that side. So I don't think that he's going to have a future after the summer. I think if somebody comes in with a small bid, they'll go. I think the only other reason he's kind of hung about is that the ruling for the European squads, that you need so many homegrown players, and he kind of ticks that box. So I don't think he's got a future. The biggest statement I intend from Philippe Clement today was taking him off at half time and putting
I would agree with that.
Putting a right back in at right wing.
Yeah.
Tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. And again, like Andrew, I don't think Cortez had a good game, but again, I'm willing to put that down to surroundings are maybe a bit different. I'm not one of these guys that will be, oh, you've had one bad game and you're done. Like McCausland, I don't understand the way McCausland's been kind of criticised. I think he's played a lot of football that he probably isn't ready for yet in terms of the longevity, but there's nobody else there. And that's where you're thinking if somebody like Scott Wright comes in, they get a chance because he's the only one of very few wide players. He's going to get opportunities this season, but doesn't take them. And again, as Scott Wright points out, he's off after 45 minutes. And again, similar to Wednesday night, it was a quick statement for Clement of, you're not doing it this half, I'll get somebody on. And almost instantly there's an improvement. And that's a worry for me. Like these guys, like Scott Wright, for example, Matondo, you could maybe kind of give him more excuses that he's got a bit more about him, but these guys just don't take chances, and that's why they're not starters. And that's why Cortez is able to come in and almost instantly show you something that hasn't been in that Rangers side for a while. Sima, I think Sima's been a big miss. I think he will be as the season goes on. But it's because the guys offer something that the likes of Wright, who's been there so long, we've seen them do what they do, and they're just no at it.
Yeah, I mean the Scott Wright saga. I think I'd said on the Gallant a few earlier in the season. Scott Wright went to Turkey for a transfer move and he came back with a haircut. That kind of sums it up how his kind of last contract year for Rangers has been. I mean that. If anyone listens to me on the other shows, I mean, I'm a big defender of players. Matondo's always been a player I've backed to the hilt. I'm happy for him. He's contributing. But Wright is just someone that, if you compare Matondo and Wright, there were a lot of people would say neither of them are Rangers quality and they shouldn't have been in the team. But comparing Wright to Matondo's adding goals, especially in the last 4 or 5 games. Obviously, he's picked up his knock, and knowing Clement, he'll do his best to have a timeline set and phase him back in. So I mean, I'm happy for that. But in terms of Wright, I mean, it says it all. I mean, McCausland, in an ideal world, you would want drip feed games, giving him the picking and choosing opportunities to help him develop. I mean, let's not forget, up until Stephen Davis gives him a shot, his contract was expiring. I mean, he wasn't really getting a look into the first team until it was given to him and forced upon him. And it's credit to him for taking his chances. But I think we just have to have that kind of element of realism from McCausland. I mean, it's not like, I don't know, like Vinicius Junior or someone like that. He's just a world class player out the box. He's going to have to take time. He's got one or two tools in his arsenal, but you're going to need to develop 3 or 4 others. And that's only going to come with time. He's still a young lad. I mean, I think we just are expecting these firecrackers coming out of the academy. You know, and that's just not how it is. I mean, look at our record with the academy. We could have a whole other podcast based on who's the graduates that have made appearances at Rangers. I mean, the one that springs to mind, I mean, Josh McKay. I mean, he was Academy Player of the Year, and Gerrard was a big fan of him, but he got released during this season. So it's about having an element of realism. I mean, we all want to push the youth players. We all want to see a homegrown star, you know, one of us playing for the team. But these things take time. It's just about reining it in a little. He's doing a really good job. He's highly rated by the manager by all accounts, and he's certainly not doing himself any harm in the appearances I've seen him with. So I'm just happy that he himself is. I think he's acutely aware of the situation. I think he'll know, you know, come the summer, Rangers are going to maybe look for another more experienced winger. So he's going to have to bide his time probably then. But as I said, that'll be the moment we're going to drip feed him games. You're going to pick and choose games where he's going to come in and make an impact. So I think the amount of games he's getting, I know it sounds very obvious, but it's because the games are getting forced on him. And I don't think it'll be like that for forever. I think come next season, there'll be a better, you know, man management plan around him.
Yeah, and I think that's been the situation that Clement's been dealt, and I think that's kind of where a lot of the credit has to go to him, because he's had to take things. He's probably he's walked into the situation at Ibrox and been absolutely baffled at what's going on, like the likes of the way that the treatment situation was, like in terms of the kind of fitness and things like that, his transfer strategy for another, and it's things he's had to fix in a short period of time. And I think that's another thing. I think there's a lot of contract situations. I mean, there's a lot of things there, but the way the squad was structured, I think, is something that is a major issue in the summer, and I think it's something that I think already the wheels will be in motion to try and sort that, but it's probably something later on. But again, it's the reason why Scott Wright's played 105 games. It's because that position's not been dealt with. It's no, and we need to talk. We need to look at that in the summer. But in terms of the goal just before halftime, Scott, really good strike from Diamandi, who I was really impressed with first half. And again, conditions he's probably never dealt with before. It's just a thunder blast in it. And I saw a thing, and I know I didn't, for the purposes of a couple of weeks ago when I got myself into trouble, I didn't watch any analysis, but I did see a clip where Chris Sutton says the goalkeeper should have saved that. No goalkeeper on the planet is saving Diamandi's strike there, because it's such a powerful effort. But what impressed me about it was a nice wee bit of build-up play, and it comes to Diamandi with his right foot. He was using his left foot really well. You can tell he's naturally good with his left foot. But it was his right foot he got the strike away with, and it was powerful and just great timing for the goal as well. And it just settled a lot of people's nerves. Like, you saw just the crowd lift as soon as that came in. And that was a big moment, I think.
Aye, definitely. It was a big moment this season. Diamandi showed it in his celebration as well. To strike a ball as hard as that, as well as that, with your weaker foot's pretty impressive, I've got to say. I think he actually says it in his post-match presser as well, that it was his weaker foot. So if he can do that with his right, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with his left when it's a shot. Overall, I think Diamandi, he hadn't really set header light in any cameos he's made. They've been kind of steady. A steady signing, I would say, when he's first come in, but he's announced himself that he's arrived. Basically, I think he's got the potential to do what Jose Cifuentes was supposed to do. Hopefully, he's going to bring a balance to that midfield. I really like the rotation in central midfield now with Lundstrom, Lawrence and Diamandi. You get Lawrence can play in the 10 as well. So your midfield three is looking really strong now. And if you think back to Christmas in terms of what we had, it was pretty worrying when you're putting Kieran Dowell in to play as much. Kieran Dowell's a good football player, but when you're relying on him to play as much as we were, it wasn't a good sign that of where we were as a team on the park. But it was a highlight of the first half. The first half was sluggish, is the only word to really describe it, Scott. So it's good to get 1-0 up.
Andrew, I want to touch a bit on Todd Cantwell, because I thought, again, Cantwell's been somebody who I've been screaming out for in the past kind of few months. Needs to be offering more in terms of numbers. He needs to be offering more in terms of being that kind of focal point in the side, in terms of getting goals. Today, he got clattered a couple of times, and you could tell, obviously, he took a bit of a bad one before he went off. But I thought today, just in terms of the way he was picking up space, I thought the way he was attacking a lot of kind of nothing balls, to be honest, a lot of loose passes, and he was picking them up. And I think Cantwell is somebody who hopefully stays fit. If he stays fit and he's able to get a run together, I think he's probably been on the best run of his season so far, and it's been kind of stop-start. Seems to be really picking up his game lately.
100%. He's at the real purple patch at the moment. Yeah, he clattered. I mean, I thought there was some really meaty challenges from the St Johnstone players. I thought they didn't do themselves any favours. I thought they kind of showed what their intentions were. Camping everybody behind the ball and just clatter a Rangers player when he's anywhere near the ball. So I think that says a lot. But Todd's been... And the thing I would say about him is that I think, again, he is aware of that he wants to do better. He's had some off games. I think he's not shirking the blame. He's not going to be pointing at somebody else and saying, "You're the reason I'm not doing well. You're the reason I'm not finding the net or finding the killer pass." But he certainly is now. I've seen somebody saying I think he's like the most dribbled by player in our team. But the thing I rebutted with was he's the first player that always charges down whoever's on the ball. Yeah, he doesn't get it right 100% of the time. That's the effort, that's the work rate. He's always the first line of defence when we're not in the ball to go and charge it down, try and find it, try and put the pressure on. I mean, his work rate is... I know everyone said he can be lazy when it's not going his way, but see, when it is going his way, nobody's covering as much ground as him. I think he just wants to be a success. And I think that it's something that I really love for him to have, because I think he really deserves it. I mean, we all know what he gets on social media from pundits, Chris Sutton, the social media. He's thinking that he wants to delete his social media for things he gets, but I mean, he's doing everything to embed himself with the Rangers support. I think everybody wears the scarf and goes to the games loves watching Todd, because he's a flash player, but it's not just like in the way that maybe a Rebo would take on 4 players, he'd get by 2 and then just lose it. I still have the feeling that after 2 he can take on another 6. Mm-hmm. He has the kind of effort and drive to keep going and keep going and keep going and not giving up on these kind of aimless kind of passes, or putting the pressure on to nip a ball out when it's to turn the tide in an attack. And I mean, I love him a bit. I think he's brilliant. He's doing everything that I'd want him to do, and especially when you compare it to the start of the season, it was easier for him to just close himself off. I mean, by all accounts, he was good pals with Beale, on and off the park. I mean, I think Beale gave him the freedom of the team for the entire spell he was here as a manager. Just let Todd do what he wants. But I think he's actually benefiting more from having a wee bit more of a structured approach as to what his job is, what his role is in the team, and it's working tenfold. He's getting goals, he's making the killer passes, and he's looking sharp. He's dragging the opposition to. You need to go and stop him, because if we don't, we're gonna get hurt here.
Scott, I saw a lot of people on kind of social media when I was kind of reading the game back after it. I've like people between half time and the second goal, which we'll get into in a minute. I saw a lot of people getting quite nervous about, oh, it's only 1-0, and I get it, because if you're only a goal in front, all it takes is a silly mistake, as Celtic saw on Saturday. That all it takes is one wee mistake, and you could 2 points go down the toilet. But I never felt at any point that Rangers were under any pressure. Like, I just thought it was so solid. I know, like, as the game went on, there was a bit of rotation. Obviously, McCaws and Dessers come on as well. There was a couple of chances, like the Sterling header. I think he's quite unlucky, because I think he's actually behind it. I think there's much he can do. I think that's probably as good a connection as he can get with it. And I just never felt at any point, though, that Rangers were under any pressure. I just always felt that second goal was coming.
No, we seem to be getting into these situations where, I mean, if you look at Aberdeen at home and Aberdeen equalise, Ross County equalised at Ibrox, not once did I feel, as a supporter, any kind of anxiety that we're going to drop any points. But you've just got an element of confidence in this team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of somewhat away to St Mirren as well. Thought it was a relatively comfortable 1-0 victory in St Mirren correct to bar that day. But didn't really. St Johnstone offered absolutely nothing going forward. They trained on their pitch during the week to make it as rough as they possibly can. So rumour has it anyway. Levine had them training on it on the surface to make it dry and bobbly, and it didn't work. These are things that under Michael Beale that would have affected the players' mental state in terms of going and getting the job done. But it's not. They're rolling up their sleeves. They're getting stuck in. John Lundstrom's turned into that general in the middle of the park, and he's consistent with it now. Now I'm willing to say he's been consistent since Cologne came in. It's not just a manager bounce off him. Now we're seeing the actual John Lundstrom. I mean, Suter and Goldson, they seem perfectly settled at the back. They seem to have finally struck up some sort of partnership together.
Bournemouth today as well. I thought he was so solid. Like, it's very rarely I'll say Bournemouth was solid, but today I didn't think at any point. Like, I'm usually a bag of nerves watching him. Today he was fine.
But see if that's the Bournemouth we've got at the end of the season, the reception he'll get off the supporters is going to be so much better than McKay and Alfred got. I think your pod we touched on it last week that if he contributes like by scoring goals against the United, as long as he comes in and does that, you need a certain level of physicality in this league. And Ridvan's height lets him down. Unfortunately for him, he's a better left back, but he's as long as he's producing performances like that, then just all feels good just now. Mm-hmm. Just all feels as if the squad's really, really in a good place. There's a good team ethic amongst them as well. See, even when small thing a day, Campbell, when he gets clattered just before half time, come on, brings Cortez and Scott Wright over and tells them not changing position.
Yeah,
it's just smart man management.
Yeah,
I mean, you've seen it against St Mirren as well when they brought on James Scott and put him right on Ridvan, and it immediately takes Ridvan off and puts Barris at John. It's just simple, basic decisions. It's getting made, but it wouldn't get made under Michael Beale.
No, absolutely not. And the second goal did come eventually, Andrew. Jujon Sterling's going into the box. It's a powerful run. The clearest foul and penalty you've ever seen, but because we live in Scotland and referees aren't brave to make their own decisions, that's what's happened here. There's no other explanation than the referee, like several referees recently, have decided against giving the on-field decision because they know that the VAR will just basically correct them. See if in my line of work I make a mistake and somebody else corrects me all the time and I rely on that, I get into bother. That's 2 times today that happened, and it's several times this week we've already seen it. That is the clearest penalty you've ever seen, but because referees in Scotland aren't brave and they'll happily take help, they'll take the lifeline. Do you know what I mean? They'll go to the Jeremy Clarkson in the VAR room and they'll phone a friend. That's basically what's happening here. It's the clearest foul you've ever seen, and it takes 4 minutes, and it's 4 minutes added on at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where it's becoming the comfort blanket of, I don't need to get this right. I need to look like I've seen that there could be an issue, but I don't need to say what that issue is, because I know that somebody with a camera or the TV screen will do that for me. I mean, you've got 2 linesmen and a referee on the park. There's more than one view there. I mean, you can't say, "Oh, I was obstructed with a linesman." You know, I think it's just it's just lame. It's shirking the effort to somebody else, and just, I know they'll say, "Oh, well, we got the decision right in the end," but there was no need to have it as long and drawn out as that. I mean, I seen one today.
3.5 minutes that took.
I seen one today where it was I think Scott, you put it in the chat, the Sheffield United tackle on Matoma, that was given as a yellow, and then they had to go and they showed one angle of it, and they went, "Oh, actually, it's a red." as if you didn't see that at the time. It's ridiculous. It's just it's just, I don't want to do it. Somebody else have their name next to the decision that says red card or penalty, so that if there's any accusation thrown back and deflected to somebody else. It's lame and it's poor, but as I said, as you said, sorry, it's Scottish football and it's becoming the norm, and that's the most terrific part of it, is that we're just going to have to deal with this until wholesale changes, it happens from top to bottom.
Scott, it's becoming it's easier for the referee to do nothing and then be proven wrong, which I don't get, because people that know me know I don't want to be, you know what I mean? If somebody jumps in and corrects me, I don't like it. I think I get angry at it, because that's me being wrong, and I don't understand anybody who's quite happy to accept they're wrong. They've made the wrong decision. You do everything to try. That's why VAR, I think the tool of it was to always try and get the referee, make sure the referee got the mistake right, try and find every possibility to stand by the referee decision. Only if it's clear and obvious do we go against it. That's not how VAR's been used. VAR's been used to get the referee out of trouble, because he's too scared. It's easier for the referee not to make the on-field decision, because it's, as Andrew says, it's Scotland and we're weird. But in the week where the SFA have come out and said 13 decisions in Scotland in an 11 round of fixtures, so take down 11 times 6 is what, 70 something. I'm no on the spot maths. I think 66 games. There's been 11, so there's been a sixth of those games there've been a mistake in, and we're happily to accept that, because but then again, it's the SFA. The referees are quite happy just to let the technology do the work, but the first time it's wrong. It's the referee. Craig Levine today is ridiculous what he's saying. Those are two clear penalties that don't need VAR. But because we're Scotland, we need it. We need it to correct referees. It's just stupid. It's just so stupid. And I could go on all night about it. But on a brighter point, what a penalty for Tavernier for the second.
Aye. See, just to quickly touch upon the referee, the biggest thing for me was when Sterling gets taken down and the players make a claim and the crowd make a claim, the camera goes on his face and it looks like a 5-year-old child that's just lost his mum and dad in a shop. It's just, It looks frightened, scared to make a decision. And how you can rely, I can understand relying on VAR if you're not feeling good at your work and stuff like, you're not as confident or whatever, but that is blatant as a penalty as I'm going to see this season. 100%. And the fact that I had to go there is just an absolute shambles. It kind of sums up the Scottish game when it comes to officiating, to be honest with you, Scott. In terms of penalty, Tav's, we spoke about this earlier on, Tav's relentless when it comes to his penalty taking. I mean, I seen Johnny McFarlane posting on Twitter earlier on, that's him level with John Gregg at 120 goals.
It's madness.
It's unbelievable. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And Tavernier doesn't get praised enough.
No.
We're very quick to go on his back and question him.
Connor Goldson's comments after the cup final will stick with me for years. Nobody will appreciate him until he's gone. And it's true, it's 100% right. And nobody, until he said that, really took that into account. He's 100% right when he said that.
Definitely. And he needs, there's been times this season where he stepped up, missed a penalty, and then he's had the opportunity again. He steps up and he smashes the second one. There's no kind of middle ground on it. He's saying, that's my job, and I'm taking it, and I'm going to do a good job at it. And he does. His conversion rate's really successful in penalties. So I think it's time to give captain a bit of praise instead of constantly giving him stick. Like, 3 assists midweek, and you're looking on Twitter and or X, and everybody's still slating him. And I can't understand it when he gets 3 assists. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't. He's churning out numbers, something terrible, and he's what a contributor. See, for 250k. Put it into perspective, he's been with us since the championship. He said he's been on the end of countless Old Firm hidings. He's still here, he's still leading the club. He's new under a manager that's going to get the best of the squad, and it looks as if we're going to be successful. And there's nobody that deserves it more than James Tavernier.
No, definitely not. I think it's absolutely fair. And again, the third penalty, the third goal, I think is very good as well. Because it's a different corner, probably more pressure on him actually, because that is the kind of way to just kill the game off. And as I say about the goal difference, just get the goal. The goal difference is three goals better than it was at the start of the weekend. You know what I mean? It could be huge come the end of the season. But another player I want to touch on before we get into the kind of overall result and things like that was Cyril Dessers come on, Andrew, and similar to Wednesday night, he could have scored. Obviously scored 2 on Wednesday night, but he could have scored 10. Today, he could have easily had 2 goals, and just his decision making in the final third. This Dessers is just so hard to judge for me because at the back of my mind, I'm thinking you can see some of his link-up play is just tremendous, and you can tell why he's went for money in the past. But there's times you wonder with his decision making, what on earth are you doing? And today was a perfect example of that. But you can't fault him. That's the thing. He's just so tough to analyse.
He is the definition of an enigma.
He
is so difficult to. You don't know what you're going to get from him. He'll sit the keeper down, he'll round him, he'll drop the shoulder, he'll find the perfect finish, or he'll have an open goal and hit the post, or as we seen the other night, he'll find the one guy defending on the line to block the shot. I think there'll be studies done in his career in the future, and they'll come back just as inconclusive as it was to view it at the time. It is perplexing sometimes, but I mean, it's the same. I feel like I say it again for all the players, which I suppose is a good thing. But you can see they're really wanting to be successful with the team. They're really wanting to make the fans happy. They want to give the fans goals. In his case, he wants to put the ball in the net. He wants to beat teams. He wants to have the game-winning goal. I don't know if it is him trying too hard or if it's I think thinking about it too much. I mean, there was a couple of times. I mean, Alfie was quite similar to that. In the effort where he's got no time to think about the corner he's going to put it in, where's the defenders around me? Is the keeper already taking a step off his line? He'll rifle it by the keeper, and the keeper's got no chance. But he'll bear down on goal all the time in the world, and he's too busy going, now I'm going to shoot. No. I'll take another touch, and another touch. I can't get that shot away now. I need to go near post.
That is true.
By
By
that point, the keeper's took 3 steps towards him, and he's got no angle at the shot. But he'll rifle at the keeper anyway. But it doesn't go in the net, and that's the thing that we all go, oh, how's he missed that? That's a 1-on-1. That's a guilty chance, but he's missed it. I think it's a mix of trying too hard and overanalyzing the situation when he's got the ball. And trying to, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, because he pulls out the one at Easter Road where you first thought as you rifle it by the keeper into the far corner as Marshall's taking a step out his net, and he's under pressure from the retreating Hibs defender, but he's got the casualness and the composure to just redirect it back the other way, and you just go, that is so out of pocket. It's so out of pocket for him to pull something like that off, but he does it, and we love him for it, but at the same time, he will hit the guy in the goal line and we go, oh, sake, Cyril. The main thing is, that's just what we're going to have to deal with. We've passed January. You're not going to get Shankland in now. It's too late. You've got Silva, you've got Dessers, and I don't think we'll have Danilo, obviously, with his condition and his knee. I wouldn't want to put pressure on him to come back before the end of the season. So, as I said, I mean, with Scott Wright, I mean, we're not going to have a magically imported right winger that's going to be a superstar for us. You just got to deal with what you've got, and I think for once that's going to be one of his tasks, is to get the best out of the players he's got available.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a perfect summary, because at times you're thinking, like, how are you at Rangers? Like, just some of the finish against Hibs is a good example of that. Like, I can't think of many goals I've seen like that where it's just brilliant intellect just to come up with that. Like the goal in Betis as well. Just, but there's days like the day, like shooting goal twice and he just doesn't know what to do. And
the Parkhead goal,
Parkhead as well.
Yeah,
and
bearing down on goal. I mean, he'll say he get a push in the back. He'll say that, there was contact there, but it's like you're a striker. Put the ball in the net. That's the first thing. I honestly thought, going back to the Parkhead incident, I went, he's looking for contact. He's 100% looking for contact. I don't know if it's if he takes me down, it's last man, that's a red card, and we're now got a man up, and we've got a penalty or something. I don't know if he's overanalyzing that in his head, and he's waiting for the contact, and then he's just unfortunate that Johnson at the time managed to get the ball. It's just one of those where it's like, stop thinking about all that and just batter the ball at the net. It's funnily enough, it's the same thing.
It's that Torres thing, isn't it? See when Torres went to Chelsea, he would do it all the time where you would be like, why, do you know what I mean? We know you can do it, and it just would take so much time. And it's similar, this, because I think when you've got a player like that who, I mean, I thought today, just when he came on, he just brought. I thought Silva was fine, to be fair. I don't think I've been quite impressed with Silva, but I thought Dessa's brought a brilliant level of just able to hold the ball up and just was able to really. I thought the defence, I thought Considine in particular was very, very poor, and I thought it was even worse when Dessers was on because we just ragdolling him.
Yeah,
It's that final ball. We are just thinking, what the earth are you doing?
It's one of those where I feel like he's not an out and out finisher for me.
No,
I don't see him popping up in the box and finding that goal. But at the same time, he'll drop deep. He's got the nice bit of back. He's got good feet work, as we've seen in Betis. He can drop the
good eye for
shoulder.
a pass as well.
He's got a brilliant eye for a pass. The Matondo goal against PSV. If he holds that, he holds that ball to a second longer. Matondo's offside. That's not a goal, but he finds a perfect pass. He's a jack of all trades, but he's not a master of a single trade.
No.
That kind of thing. And I think that's where we're seeing it now, that he doesn't. When we want him to just score goals, this is where he's fallen short. That being said, 100% of possibility he goes and scores 2 or 3 in the next game. Just because we are saying this right now, that he can't score goals. He's missing sitters. He'll go and score 2. He'll pop up. He'll score a volley. He'll dink the keeper again, something like that in the next game, because that's just what he is.
Scott, can you see an element of Kenny Miller in him where if he's got time
to
think about his finish, he's awful, and if he's dead purely on instinct, it's a screamer in it.
It's like that. It's the thing of if I remember Kenny Miller. See the season Kenny Miller, the season he was sold to Bursaspor. Miller was so good at just one time. Every goal I think Miller scored that season was a one-time
He would
finish.
have took Larson's record that year.
Yeah, but look at all his goals back that season. They're all just one-touch finishes, with the exception of 1 or 2, where he doesn't have time, and he's got that kind of thing. I've said before, and I've said it to you, Scott, on many occasions. See Dessers in a 2. I want to see it. I think if he's got somebody, whether it's Danilo or somebody that comes in the summer that is more of a Boyd type. I said this to my dad today as well. I said, see if Dessers was just just 1 second more in terms of his own mind. I think at times there's like 300 things running through his mind, and he'll pick the wrong one first, if that makes sense. Whereas like if the 300th thing that comes to his mind is the right one, it takes him so long. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Even if he was to play as like maybe not a number 10, but see if he was to play just off a striker, like a penalty box striker, I think he'd be superb. But it's just, as you say, it just takes so much time. And I think it was that thing as well. I can see him getting 15 goals this season in the league. He's already at 10, so it's possible. I don't see him getting 20. And that's the thing. But he will get, between now and the end of the season, probably more chances than any player in the league. And a Shankland would probably score 25% of them. I think Dessers' chance conversion for the season's 15. That's not good for a number 9. Whereas somebody like Shankland sitting at like 20%, you can argue they get less chances. But it's things like that you just think in a title race are going to make all the difference. But I think he'll contribute. But he frustrates the hell out of you sometimes. But
we would have been tapping Wednesday if Shankland had signed, because Shankland would have had 4 at least.
I think Rangers would have been top if they didn't if Connor Wilson could handle Eamon Brophy. I think it's those fine margins. It's that kind of thing. But Scott, in terms of the result, and obviously what I was interested in as soon as you realised Rangers were going to win, the end of the game, I was intrigued to see how the players would approach the fans. And I've got flashbacks to that time at Parkhead where Rangers went and thought they'd won the league that day when they beat Celtic 2-1. And it wasn't that today, and I think that's all down to the manager again. There's just a feet on the ground thing that I quite like, that there's still a lot of football to be played. That Rangers have, obviously, the Rangers are on the up, where you can argue Celtic are on the down. We get that. But Rangers have got a lot to do before they can celebrate that. I thought that was quite good today that Clement was happy to acknowledge the fans, but it wasn't a case of, right, we're top of the league, that's half the job done. Job's nowhere near done. And I think that's important from now. Two massive games coming up. I think these 2 games against Hearts and Kilmarnock are probably as big a 2 games as probably Rangers have had I would argue in about 4 or 5 years.
Aye, definitely. And if we manage to come out with 6 points in it, it's probably the biggest statement we've made under Philippe Clement, to be brutally honest with you. Hearts, they've run an unbeaten run themselves. I'm not sure how many matches, but they're on a bit of a winning streak. They're churning out. I watched a wee bit of their game yesterday. They're churning out good performances at home against Motherwell. Motherwell were quite gritty yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And played. It was almost like Rangers playing Motherwell at Ibrox, the way Motherwell were set up. They were set up to counter attack, but Hearts managed to break it down, and they seem to be creating that kind of winning culture, if that's fair, at Hearts just now. They're on a really, really good run, but I'm hoping that's going to end on Wednesday night. Kilmarnock's probably the tougher game of the two for me, just purely because it's at Rugby Park. We know what Kilmarnock can offer at home, what they can do. They've beaten both sides of the old firm there this season. They beat Celtic twice, they've beaten us once. That's probably Kilmarnock's toughest match yet, I would say, since the return for the winter break. But we need to come out with 6 points. If we come out with 6 points, Celtic go to Motherwell. It's not an easy match either.
Motherwell and home to Dundee. Away to Motherwell, then home to Dundee.
Home to Dundee. I mean, the way Celtic are playing just now, you can't guarantee that they're going to take 6 points either. So I think as long as we come out of these games still with a 2-point gap, I would be a happy man, to be brutally honest with you, because it's 2 tough fixtures.
Andrew, in terms of today and in terms of the next week, what you're looking for? Scott rightly says they're 2 massive games. Kilmarnock, obviously, the first game of the season. If you'd said that day that Rangers would be top of the league in February, even then, I think a lot of people would have said, "Yeah, well, half what you're having." But that's a big game. That's probably bigger than the Hearts game, as Scott says, because that's righting another wrong.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I was thinking back when you said that about the 2 biggest games we've had this season. I said on our pod early in the season when we played PSV and then the Old Firm one after the other, said if we could get good results there, that'll do us the world of good, and we didn't. We get no positive result in either of those games, and that probably was the downfall for. That was probably the end. That was the beginning of the end. He jumped the shark at that moment. It was game over. But it could be the opposite here, where 6 points here, and you're taking 2 massive steps towards the direction we want to be heading. I think that was one of the main things you said about the celebration, was that we're not celebrating the fact that we've just won the league like we did at Parkhead under Gerrard. We are celebrating the fact that we got over another big hurdle in the direction where we want to be going. I think everybody knows where we want to go. That's an obvious question, and I think the players know that. But it's the way, again, and as we said about it, Gerrard was very much in that 55 season. It was 1 game at a time. Yeah. I mean, we look at the game that's directly ahead of us. We don't look past that, and having that kind of clinicalness of just that's our sole focus for now. Win that 90 minutes. Win the 2 45-minute halves, and that's 3 points towards where we want to be going. And then we do it all again for the next match. I think looking across the city, I'm a big fan of knowing your enemy just as well as you know yourself. And the sound bites from some of their fans is they're not comfortable saying that that's 6 points.
And that's been more alarming. I think that's been more of the kind of thing I've noticed in the past couple of days is that Celtic fans who are very, very, a lot of them are very, very dismissive of Rangers, are now beginning to see that Rangers are in the ascendancy.
Yeah, I think that's the thing though, is that they're now having to look at us. I mean, that's probably the main thing from a mentality standpoint, is they're now looking at us. I mean, they could have just said, "Oh, we don't look at the other side of the city. We're busy doing our stuff, winning titles, winning trophies, blah 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 blah." Now they need to follow our footsteps and try and follow our steps.
And that's uncharted territory for this Celtic. A lot of this Celtic team.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's probably no nicer way of saying it. Under Ange, they were a juggernaut, and they just knew how to win. They churned out wins. In the league, Europe obviously was another thing, but that doesn't feel like that anymore. I think it was they'll have to have a look back if this season goes sideways. There'll be a lot of I don't want to say pitchforks and torches, but obviously there'll be a lot of questions asked at the top to bottom. We went so wrong. We went safe with the manager, or our signings were poor, so we wouldn't change there. I mean, it's reminiscent of where we were with Ross Wilson. What's his job as a person bringing in signings? I mean, there was the Douglas Park and John Bennett switchover. It's similar to the way the Lawwells are kind of handling the show over there. And the whole thing with Beale was kind of similar to the way that Rodgers is getting it now. It's very similar. I mean, it's about time that they are feeling this side of what we are feeling at the start of the season. The main thing I would say though is, even though looking at the other side is always good, and comparing yourself, the main thing is that we need to keep that next step. That next step is always just have to be our focus. I don't care if they play before us or they play after us. If they win, cool, that's fine. We need to win our game. That's the main thing.
No,
that's just how it's going to be.
Absolutely, and I think the next couple of weeks are going to be huge in terms of the direction of this title race. But we will be back. We won't have a show next week because I am not here. We'll be back the week after. We will have a double. We'll analyse both the Hearts and Kilmarnock game. I want to thank my two guests for coming on this show. It's been a really good show, probably as productive a show in terms of the result and overall structure as we've had in a long time. So to Scott McKay, first of all, thank you very much.
Thanks very much for having me on, Scott. Good pod.
Always a pleasure, mate. And to Andrew Stewart, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Really enjoyed that. Long way this kind of good feeling continue.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, folks. And we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Thank you.